Thank you, Generals. So the Generals will now take questions from the audience. I see the first hand from Julian Barnes. If you could please state your name and affiliation, Julian.
Yeah, Julian Barnes, Wall Street Journal. General Breedlove, I wonder if you could tell us your current assessment of the situation in Ukraine in terms of what the level of violence and fighting is there now compared to recent assessments that you have. And I wonder if you or General Pavel could address mill-to-mill dialogue between NATO and Russia right now. Where does that stand? What have you offered? What have they reciprocated?
I think I'll take the first question and I'll defer the second to the chairman. We see much of what we see you all reporting in the paper the same way. We see an increasing tempo of skirmishes along the line of contact. There seems to be a steady growth of these contacts over the past 2 weeks. Once again, we see soldiers being injured and lost there. The good news, I think, is no huge exchanges of the more heavy caliber weapons, but a lot of small arms contacts, RPG type of involvements.
In terms of communication to Russia, it is widely recognized that we cannot avoid dialogue both at political and military level if we want to avoid strategic miscalculation or if we want to prevent from happening the incidents similar to bringing down the Russian airplane crossing the Turkish border. Unfortunately, there is a mismatch between press declaration on Russian side and practical willingness to get in touch. Since I assumed my position in June, I made several efforts to use this channel of military communication, and up to now there was a lack of will on Russian side to have that communication. However, it doesn't mean that the lines of communications are closed. Russians communicate at a bilateral basis with nations, so there is some kind of communication.
Good evening, I'm Alex Rekat. I work for Agence France Presse, AFP. I would like to know what is your assessment of the situation now on the border between Syria and Turkey, because you were just talking about the incident which has caused a lot of tension between an ally, which is Turkey and Russia. How is the situation now in the air, on the ground, because we know there's a lot of activity going on the Russian side, of course. How do you assess, how would you describe it?
So let me address the air picture first. Of course, the coalition, not NATO, but the coalition that is addressing ISIL in Iraq and Syria has reached a series of technical agreements to be able to safely accomplish the mission in the air. Those agreements have held. We have not had any incidents in some time, and the coalition forces and the Russian-Syrian forces have remained in a safe condition ever since that agreement, that set of agreements, safety agreements, was put in place. The nations talk regularly to address issues or as it relates to those safety agreements. The situation on the ground in what we call the Manbij pocket is very tough. There are numerous forces in the Manbij pocket. There are forces from the regime and many Russian airstrikes in that area. And that situation is a long way from being resolved. And I think at that point it would be probably best asked to CENTCOM for the details. But that 60-kilometer or so pocket that we call the Manbij pocket remains a tough fighting area and confused by multiple ground forces that are involved there.
Question, please.
Thank you, Ana Pisonero from the Spanish news agency Europa Press. To General Pavel, you mentioned that Chiefs of State of Defense mentioned the fact that the terrorist threat had to be contained. I wonder the discussion that took place with the Mediterranean dialogue partners. I mean, we're always talking about the need to beef up cooperation in this particularly important area for the southern countries. But is there any concrete cooperation, operational concrete examples that have been agreed, and how are we going to take forward the whole consolidating third nation forces? And if I may, for General Breedlove, what are the, if you could let us know, what kind of package are we going to present for the Warsaw summit to beef up the southern flank? I mean, we hear that we need much more special forces in the south, we need much more naval capabilities, we need much more intel, recon capabilities, but if you could elaborate a bit on that as well, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
I will start with the question how NATO relates to the southern challenges. This is a subject of discussion and will be subject of discussions what the NATO role could be in future. NATO so far is supporting countries in the region through defense capacity building. There is a package for Iraq, there is a package for Jordan, another one is under preparation for Tunisia, and we will discuss other possible options for NATO support to the effort of coalition against ISIL. And I think these options are opened, and we realize that the situation in the region has multiple effects on security, and it relates not only to NATO but also to the European Union. So we'll have to discuss and coordinate the measures together.
As it relates to what sort of, you described it as a package, we will deliver to the South. That sounds like a future thing. I would like to remind that we are already delivering assurance measures in the South, air capabilities into Turkey from NATO. We have increased naval presence and naval engagements in the Eastern Med, and as you know, your nation is delivering ballistic missile defense now in the Turkey area. So we are already delivering capabilities to our southern flank. You are right, we are working on those next recommendations that would be a continuation of what we're doing. It's not like it's something new in the future. We're already addressing this issue. I think you can understand that I need to allow the ministers to look at the recommendation before I tell it to you to roll out in the press. So just let me assure that we are continuing to work on this, and we'll allow the ministers to look at our recommendations. Strong recommendation during this, or strong understanding and agreement during this meeting today, as was described by the chairman, of our need to address these issues in the South.
Next question, gentleman in the back.
Hi, Robin Emmett from Reuters. When it comes to the posture in the East, what sort of advice will you give to defence ministers next month? When it comes to, for instance, the discussion about permanent bases in the East, is something that Poland is bringing up at the moment. Do you see that as a possibility, a permanent basis, or if not, what's your thinking at the moment about this persistence idea? Could you imagine, say, more command and control centres or more pre-positioning of equipment? Thank you.
I will take the beginning and then you can complement the question. First, I think we use different terminology, but we mean the same thing. Several people use term permanent, other people use persistent, other people use rotational. But in fact, we're talking about the same thing, and it's within current assurance measures to our Eastern allies. There is a certain number of troops rotating for the training provided by other allies. And these troops constitute kind of forward presence, which is not only meant to assure our allies at the eastern flank of NATO, but at the same time it is a sign of solidarity of other allies which demonstrate that we are 28 for 28. So I think I would stay with that because this is what we are going to propose to the ministers, that we need to keep proper balance between this kind of forward presence and ready and responsive forces in the remainder of the alliance.
I would just echo what the chairman said. There are a lot of words used to describe it. Every time I talk about it, I talk about persistent rotational forces. You use the word troops. I would like to emphasize that it's more than ground troops. We are describing and developing a continuation of the existing assurance measures where we try to have air, sea, and land presence. And so it's important that we have an appropriate balance of air presence, north, center, and south, an appropriate naval presence, north, center. You can't have a naval presence in the center, but to the south. And then, of course, the ground presence. And so this is, as described, we would like to show a multinational, persistent, rotational force that demonstrates solidarity and our commitment to the defense of our allies.
If I may add just something on this issue, in complementarity with what has been said is the exercise program, which and we try to have the right balance between exercises related to Article 5 and crisis management. I recall that Triangle Juncture 15 was an exercise focused on the southern threat, and that's very important. We have increased considerably the number of exercises, and it's very important that the exercise program is a part of this overall posture, and it's an area on which we are working a lot. And we link more and more national exercises to this exercise program in order to be sure that we have a comprehensive view of all the exercises conducted by NATO nations.
John, please.
Hi, John Dahlberg from the Associated Press. Gentlemen, to the degree you can you give us a little more detail on what advice NATO's military leaders have given on what they think is necessary to take the adaptations forward to focus on those essential measures that need to be taken for collective defense?
As you certainly know, the long-term adaptation runs in three major strands. It's political, military, and institutional adaptation. Within all these strands, there is a number of tasks and measures. And in terms of military, it's primarily this REP, yeah, you know what?
Readiness Action.
Readiness Action Plan, yeah. And within that Readiness Action Plan, we can talk about doubling the size of NATO response force, about creation of VJTF, about a number of exercises, NFIUs located in the countries in the eastern flank, many coordination measures, studies on pre-positioning and rotational presence. All these are adding to the military adaptation. Then there are many more long-term adaptation measures which relate to the overall scope of training and exercising. It's an area which is under the responsibility of General Mercier. And I think there is the whole range of measures within the military adaptation.
I would just add, I completely agree with what the chairman said. We've been saying all along in adaptation that two keys are readiness and responsiveness. We'll continue to work on those readiness and responsiveness issues that brings our force to a better position to be able to react to all challenges, north in the Arctic, east, as you understand, in Russia, and south, the many different kind of challenges we will face in the south. Additionally, we are working on both our military and political decision making, being able to decide at speed so that these new capabilities that we are developing can be brought to bear at speed. And then a pretty interesting conversation about how assurance relates to deterrence and what we will do in the future on that.
And again, the point to stress the future, the capabilities we are developing now, and we have a strong capability development process, which is one of the main strengths of NATO. Those capabilities will remain operational in 2030, 2040 for many of them. And this is why it's so important that when we address the shortfalls, we look at the present and we try to foresee what will be the future challenges as well, beyond 2030, for instance, because we know that the capabilities that are in the process right now, they will remain operational in 30 years. That's very important that we keep looking at this future as well.
Next question, please, gentleman over there.
Yes, my name is Wasim Ibrahim from As-Safir newspaper, Lebanese newspaper. For General Breedlove, you mentioned before, General, the anti-access, anti-aerial denial, which is the Russian system delivered, or part of it delivered to Syria. What's the state of play concerning this system? And especially you said before that it's challenging the NATO capabilities. Are you doing something? So the state of play and what you are doing. The second part, it's for the gentleman also. It's a bilateral between the US and Turkey. They are talking about closed area in the north of Syria. It's about 90 kilometers. Maybe it's linked to what you said about, to Mr. Breedlove, what you said about the Manbij. Is it linked or not? I'm not quite sure. But is it linked also to reassurance measures? Is NATO involved in this issue, in this closed area, free area from ISIL? And the last point, if I may, your goal also to contain the threat of terrorism. Is the Russian operations doing or bringing any contribution in this regard? Thank you.
I can talk to the first two, and I'll allow either of my colleagues to talk to the third one. Anti-access area denial, A2AD as we call it, is really a new way to use old tools. A2AD is a combination of using surface-to-air missile defense to preclude aircraft entering into an area, combined with coastal defense cruise missiles to prevent ships from coming into an area, combined with land attack cruise missiles to be able to strike land forces or to strike airports of debarkation or seaports of debarkation to try to deny. So these three tools have been in the military inventory for a while, but the new approach is to use them in conjunction with each other to create an area which makes it very tough for a military force to enter and then employ. We have seen this A2AD grow in Kaliningrad. We've seen this A2AD grow very dense in Crimea and the Black Sea. We see a certain amount of it along the border traces of Belarus and other places, but as you point out, we now see a growing density of this A2AD capability in the Eastern Mediterranean, centered around the Russian airfields and the port of Latakia. That is not a very mature system yet, but we are concerned at how it's growing. And this is a capability that any force that wanted to enter that area would have to deal with. Of course, as I mentioned before, at the moment, the Russian forces and the coalition forces have a safety technical agreement which allows passage of aircraft and others in this area. So while there is an A2AD capability there, our agreements are allowing both forces to action into the area. I must tell you that I listened closely about what you talked about on the closure area, and I am not aware of what you're talking about. There are a lot of concerns, as we said, about the Manbij pocket, the ability for both forces to be able to employ in that area, but I am not aware of a U.S.-Turkey closed area. I'm not tracking that.
I don't want to guess, but when you used the figure 90 kilometers, it reminds me that there is a gap of a 90-kilometer border where ISIL forces reach Turkish border. So that's probably the area you had in mind. But to close this gap, it's not the effort by U.S. or Turkey. It's on the opposite, the effort of Syrian troops from one side, supported by Russian Air Force, from the other side, from the Kurds, so that in fact this area then would be closed, and the whole border between Syria and Turkey will then be held by other forces than ISIL. Yeah.
And we'll take last question, please.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, okay, yeah. Up to this point, it is well known that Russia is mostly attacking opposition forces instead of the forces of ISIL or other forces which are considered to be either extremist or terrorist. The proportion is roughly 70 to 30%. Some figures show even higher proportion of Russian forces attacking opposition rather than ISIL. In that sense, of course, there might be much better effect when Russian Air Force increases the ratio of attacks against ISIL. Up to now, it is rather a matter of complication because we have to deconflict a lot of activities instead of working in coordination.
Now the last question, please.
Rob Olver, British Forces Broadcasting Service. A question for General Breedlove. How concerned are you about apparent advances of the Taliban in places like Sangin in Afghanistan? And should NATO now send more troops back to Afghanistan?
So, Rob, thanks for the question. I just returned from Afghanistan less than a week ago. I was able to visit pretty much the entire country except for the north. I was in the north the last time that I was there. What I would say to you is that this has been a tough year for the ANDSF. We believe they've sort of fought to a draw with the Taliban in this year. And none of us, to include them, believe a draw is where we need to be. But we have to remember that this is the first year that they have been completely on their own, and where they have not had the close air support the aeromedical support, the ISR that we have been providing for them in the past. What we have seen is some fairly spectacular quick wins by the Taliban, and those are well reported. What we have also seen is that in every case, the ANDSF have put together a plan and retaken the territory. Clearly, Musa Qala and Kunduz were tough, but in the end, they have retaken this land and moved forward. The good news is this is a tough, courageous force that very much feel like they own the fight. My staff and I changed our itinerary during this last visit to make an unplanned visit to Helmand. And we sat there in the field and met with 215th Corps commander and his senior enlisted man about their fight and how it was going. And I think the words they used were very instructive, very insightful. They said, "We have this fight. We just need a little help, but we have this fight." So the Afghans are fighting for their country. There's no lack of will or fight in them. And I think what we're going to learn from this year is, have we taken the appropriate path at the appropriate speed to completely divorce ourselves from them? And we will be making some recommendations to our political leadership about our train, advise, assist mission, not a combat mission, but how we might adapt our train, advise, assist mission to help them through next year, watching how this year went. I remain a glass half full on this because, again, meeting and talking to these leaders, it's all about leadership, and we're beginning to see the right kind of leadership take the field. There are still challenges we need to work through. We knew a long time ago it was going to take a long time to put the Afghan Air Force to a position where it could support its fielded forces. We now see that playing out. They are getting better, but it will take time. We knew that there were going to be issues on fire support, logistics, and other things. The Afghans are incrementally getting better at this. And I think that we will make some recommendations about how possibly to adjust our train, advise, assist mission. Again, not a combat mission.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. This concludes today's press conference. Thank you very much for coming.